camera on and my microphone ready. That's in. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I swear in Mr. Dominguez.
Please, thank you.
And just so we're clear for the public, this is item A on the public hearings portion, which is the Sears redevelopment plan. Mr. Dominguez, if you could please give us your full name, spelling your last name for the record, and by whom you are employed and the address.
Of the address of my employment?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hello, my name is Dan Dominguez. I am the planning director here for the city of New Brunswick / board secretary, in this case, coming to you in my capacity as a planning director for the city. I work out of 25 Kirkpatrick Street, New Brunswick, New Jersey, 08901.
Mr. Dominguez, do you swear or affirm the testimony you shall provide before this board this evening shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Mr. Chairman, the witness has been sworn.
Thank you. You can proceed, Mr. Dominguez.
All right. Thank you. I'm having trouble with the. Hold on. Open up a new tab. And there we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, thank you for having me tonight. First meeting of the year. And so begins another redevelopment project before us. If many of you have been paying attention to the Sears site off Route 1, approximately 30-something acres of land, once very large and active, well, still large, but once a very active commercial site, department store, for many folks, the scene of memories, childhood memories, etc., very fond ones in most cases. It's become dilapidated, underutilized, a dumping ground, a site of illegal parking of trucks and other vehicles. And but the Sears closed down formally at some point in 2021, I believe, early 2021, April or March, where it was a formal notice of closure. And Sears isn't coming back. Now, this is actually a problem that's pretty common right now, not just here, but nationwide. We're seeing the degradation and the vacancy of strip malls, department stores, conventional auto-centric malls, and a significant decline in their commercial activity and general activity to the point of detriment to the areas in which they are located. To that end, what has become the norm is to redevelop these sites into new and productive uses. In this case, we have a proposed redevelopment that would create both home ownership opportunities as well as mixed use rental units on the site. The site is sort of, in some ways envisioned as an extension of what is to become what is the redevelopment area on Route 18 in East Brunswick. If any of you have driven past, you might notice that they have also a similar problem with many boarded up and dilapidated strip mall type structures on your way out of, would that be southeast from New Brunswick. And those sites are going to be redeveloped. They're in the midst of their redevelopment process. we'll get to it later, but the same redeveloper or developer that is working in East Brunswick with the town of East Brunswick on their project was also contracted by the holding company that owns the Sears land in hopes of redeveloping it with this plan. So as we get into the items in particular, the goals of these plans, as I put in the memo highlights, is that we would hope to see this developed as a quasi new urbanist project. New urbanist is just kind of fancy planner technical language for slightly dense suburban with mixed use apartments and walkable, but not truly high density city. This tries to strum those notes as best as possible. It's not perfect. The site has some irregular shapes. It's somewhat by force autocentric, being right off of Route 1. But it's still a good candidate to take as many good tools from those visions as possible and apply them here. So on the north side of the site, what you might currently know as the parking lot behind Sears, the concept is to redevelop that into townhomes. This would be a for sale townhome zone. We dubbed it in the plan as SLI for Sears Light Intensity. This creates a transition boundary from the straight residential of the R2 zone, which may be better known as Dewey Heights to a lot of folks here, and the R6 zone just north of it, might be best known as Tove Manor, some garden apartments out that way. So this creates that transition before you get to currently where the actual physical Sears building is, which is slightly more intense development, and we'll get to that later. The townhomes will be stacked, so it'll be 1, 2, and it'll necessitate that we have a 45-foot height maximum permitted for them. The goal to be coming in under that, but that would be the height maximum to accommodate these for sale townhomes. Now, to the core of the site, where the Sears building stands today, would eventually, through phasing, would be the location of 2 mid-rise mixed development ground apartments with ground floor commercial and ground floor hidden parking. The buildings would be designed as best as possible to be oriented toward Route 1, minimize any negative spillover effects from possible noise and light to any of the existing residential neighborhoods. And there's also other buffers that we'll dive into in a little bit. This area we dubbed SMI for Sears Medium Intensity, rather than high intensity. No high rises, no super mega buildings in the area. So the goal would be a 5-story height, mixed use development, 70-foot height. For 5 stories, that's pretty common, that kind of range, 60 to 70 feet, to have natural floor plates for development. It's very hard to develop in 9 and 10-foot floor plate increments. So to do an appropriate 5-story building, 70 feet is necessary as an absolute ceiling for the building development. That's also on page 14. Additionally, in the SMI, we have the existing Sears Auto facility. That site is to ideally be developed as a small grocery store. There's sort of an existing pad there from the construction of that site, from it being a building. And I mean, the building is not probably readily convertible into such a development. But the goal would be to have a small grocery store which acts as a major amenity for the city, for outsiders, but also for the immediate neighborhoods that would be in this project, as well as relatively easy access from Dewey Heights or Tove Manor. It would be a huge amenity in the fact that it's actually an ability for people to get food quickly, but it also reduces vehicle miles traveled as persons are able to. A lot of people on the development site will actually be able to walk there, and people from nearby would, if they wanted to drive, would have a very short drive to the grocery store. And it would have a required setback to the R2 neighborhood of 100 feet at least. Okay, that whatever's causing that noise is being very problematic. Mr. Ital, would you have any objection to me muting any of the callers that are creating disturbing noise?
Yeah, I believe that there are two callers. Caller 4 is the one that I see that's not muted, and caller 5.
Is there any problem with me temporarily muting?
No,
and then,
no.
All right. I'll provide instruction later. So I apologize for that. So as I was discussing, there's an existing buffer that was developed when Sears developed itself. There was a green buffer way between the R2 neighborhood, Dewey Heights, and Sears. It was a green, shrubbed and treed, for lack of a better terminology, area. This area would be cleared to some extent.
Could you try again?
And it would be cleared to some extent, clearing any dead brush or sickly brush, and it would be replanted with preferably New Jersey native plants, but certainly no invasive plants, to re-strengthen that area, create and improve the vegetated buffer. So it's actually an effective buffer between this site and that neighborhood, but also is also better ecologically for well, ecology, nature, the environment, etc. Now, the retail pads in the front that you would see right now, that would be Houlihan's and on the border, they are included in the plan. They've been zoned within the plan as SHWY, Sears Highway. Very creative, I know. And in the immediate term, they're not foreseen as part of any immediate project, but they are in the medium to long term envisioned as possible sites for redevelopment, whether they be for other retail facilities or office use or some indeterminate feature. Right now, they are not expected to be developed at this juncture. The tenants, the restaurants, have medium to long-term leases, and it's unexpected that that any of them would close up shop in the near term. So that's there. It's to include the site for some forward thinking, but not for any immediate action. Site-wide illuminated signage. There's going to be some necessary signage with illumination due to being on the highway and visibility and noticeability, marketability. But all of these signs are to be oriented away from the Dewey Heights neighborhood, away from the Tove Manor neighborhood, so that all the light spills over onto Route 1 and not into the neighborhoods. We want, like I said, for the development to be as intensity oriented toward Route 1 as is feasibly possible, to not disturb the existing neighborhoods around the site. Site-wide floor area ratio of 2 allows for enough floor area to develop across the site while not over developing this. It allows for the pooling of development resources in different fashions as is as is necessary throughout the site. Parking is expected to be provided on site as no nearby off-site facilities exist. The site's pretty big. They could, I think, readily accommodate the parking demand for the project on site pretty well. The project will be phased. The phasing as designed in the redevelopment plan would be one mid-rise building, townhomes, second mid-rise building, grocery store pad, and then the possible redevelopment down the road of the retail pads on the front. And as I mentioned before, while no redeveloper has been designated, as this plan has not been adopted yet, it's expected that Russo Development, who is doing the Route 18 development and has done several developments in New Jersey in partnership with Kane University, they've developed several units. They have developments in Harrison, in Kearney. I think they have one in Long Branch. They've been very active, one of the most active developers in New Jersey in the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years. So Sears selected them. I believe Sears had their own RFP process, and Russo won their proposal. And with them doing the Route 18 redevelopment in East Brunswick, and this as sort of a tie-in with that, a sister project of that project, it's envisioned that it would be Russo in partnership with the Sears holding company, who would be the redeveloper for this site. And yeah, I guess that kind of sort of summarizes the overview of the plan. I defer to the board on any and all questions that they may have, and any things that they want me to dig deeper on. I defer to the board on any and all questions that they may have.
Okay, I think we're getting a little bit of an echo here, but at this point, let me open it up to the board. If any board members have any questions of Mr. Dominguez.
This is Suzanne. I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Suzanne.
I like the fact that you're orienting, everything's going to be oriented towards the highway to alleviate any exposure to the existing communities that are already set up there. I have a question as to Labor Center Way. I guess that's the street that comes in the back off of Riders Lane. Would that be closed to through traffic, and so you would also orient traffic from this development towards the highway as well? Or would that be maybe a one-way? I'm concerned about the overflow of traffic onto Riders Lane from this. And there is a small existing neighborhood, residential neighborhood, right to the right on Riders Lane there that consists of, maybe only 20 houses, but it's still a quiet neighborhood.
Dominguez, you're on mute.
That's something that's being reviewed as an engineering issue right now for traffic flow. It's sort of a complicated weighing here because on the one hand, residents from those neighborhoods may actually come to partake in the mixed use amenities, establishments, and come grocery shopping. But we also want to avoid outward traffic, people using the area as a cut through, which it has been used as a cut through as it's been Sears for a really long time anyway. Yeah. But we're trying to work with the developer to implement strategies that will reduce through any kind of through traffic in that area that could be detrimental to the site.
No, that sounds good. And I think my perception of it would be that a one-way in to the site from the surrounding area would be beneficial to everybody. But I appreciate that the engineers are looking at it. I like the fact that the project is incorporating residential for homeowners, renters, and retail, which will benefit New Brunswick as a whole. And it's nice to see the idea of a grocery store being put out here, because I know many people out in the Rutgers Village, Edgebrook area will even appreciate that. So it sounds like a very good development from my point of view. And thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I believe we had another board member with a comment or question. All right, let me rephrase. And are there any other board members with comments or questions for Mr. Dominguez on this?
I'm sorry I was muted.
It's okay. Go ahead, Bob.
You think we'd get used to this by now. Dan, you state right at the beginning that this is housing to meet market demand, what's the market demand? I mean, has there actually been any analysis to determine whether this is marketable, it's a marketable development?
Well, Bob, thank you for asking. Seeing the rents in New Brunswick, the rents reflect that there is a skew of supply and demand, that there's less supply than there is demand, and supply is being outstripped by demand, and that's reflected in rental prices throughout New Brunswick. That's why market rate housing in New Brunswick rents for $3,500 for a 2-bedroom brand new construction. Further development of housing bridges that gap of supply demand, and if the supply demand gap were to be balanced, you would see more reasonable rents in New Brunswick. People don't typically build where there's no opportunity to generate a profit or have stable buildings. There's a lot of foresight that goes into these projects to ensure that they'll be profitable for at least the 30 years that they're being borrowed for. So yes, I think all factors point to this these developments will have absolutely no trouble at all filling up entirely, inclusive of this and the development that's a sister development of this on Route 18. This is a highly desirable area of Central Jersey, and it's a highly desirable area of New Jersey in general. There's, we're proximity to New York. I know this isn't necessarily a train-focused development, although we have hopes, and it's not part of the plan, but we have hopes that the developer will include a shuttle to get people who live here to the train station. That would make it even more marketable. Again, very hot real estate market, lots of jobs, lots of amenities in this area. I don't see a problem whatsoever in the market for these being filled.
Thanks.
If I could just,
go ahead.
to what you said, I don't mean to cut you off, Bob, but also don't forget, we have a lot of bus station amenities on 18 that are very close to that. So that could be another draw for people too, outside of, even getting to the train. The bus runs into the city from here at like 3 locations within 2 miles of there. So that's a positive aspect too. That's all, and I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you didn't cut me off. Sure. The reason I asked, Dan, is because, the population in Brunswick has been stable. It hasn't been increasing.
Well, Bob, I would say that I think the census is wrong. I think that, it doesn't pass the smell test, what the census says. Yeah. And I know that, there's consideration of, we might contest it. I know a lot of the what do you call it? Big 10 towns are currently reviewing their options, as they all ended up suffering from a similar impact of ours during the census review, which is that the census came around to do a count about 2 weeks before the universities kicked everybody out and sent them home. So realistically speaking, I just educated guess, I would say the census is off by about 10 to 15,000 people in New Brunswick.
Okay. Couple other things, Dan. Is there any provision in here to provide any open space associated with this? I mean, 32 acres is a fairly large area. I know there was an interest in creating sort of a walkways and kind of a residential feel to it, that sort of thing. But just wondering if there was any interest in putting, a small park or something like that associated with it.
Sure. I think that there's going to be a decent amount of pervious coverage. I think it's going to be up to like a minimum. I think the impervious coverage maximum in the plan is 70% site wide. If I recall correctly, it may be a hair lower than that. I'm pulling up the bulk table real quick. 70%, right. So there will be green space immediately around the townhomes. There will be green space immediately near the townhomes, as there also is going to be in the concept, there would be a what do you call it? Sort of like an amenity house, if you will. They might have a pool. They might have all those facilities there. The buildings themselves, you know, are obviously concrete and stick. But given what they've done in other sites, they really maximize the use of their space to also create. I've seen them do green roofs and also a lot of rooftop amenity space. I know that's not green, but it's a little bit. Now you also have the revegetated buffer, not necessarily a park, but it does add for water detention and also improvements to, like I said, the ecology of the area by replanting with strictly New Jersey native plants. And there'll be a couple of green areas around the perimeter. I don't foresee any park as part of the site, if that's what you're getting at. But
Yeah, it was. I was less. The question was less directed in terms of, you know, permeable surfaces than it was towards kind of park-like spaces for people to recreate in.
Yeah.
But so it sounds like that's not part of the plan.
That may be part of the plan, but all right, so let me rephrase that. That may be a part of what is presented by the developer. It is not something considered in this plan as a requirement.
Okay. And this plan, if approved by the redevelopment plan, if approved by the board, it goes to the city council for consideration. And
that is correct.
And we also get we would also be presented with a site plan for review and approval also, correct?
Should the developer follow through and get designated and present a site plan, yes, it would come through the planning board.
Okay. That's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Cardica.
Any other board member with any question or comment from Mr. Dominguez? Hearing none. Mr. Ithal, can I ask you to lead us in public comment or public questions from the public?
Certainly. As Mr. Dominguez had indicated earlier, there are a very limited number of public folks in attendance at today's meeting, so this would be your opportunity to unmute yourself. If you're on the phone, hit *6. And Dan, I just want to make sure that you haven't master muted everyone. Is that correct?
No, I haven't master muted everyone. I did mute a couple of folks that were on the phone that were either intentionally or unintentionally disruptive. If anybody is on the phone and needs to unmute themselves, *6 will allow you to unmute yourself. And just in case, I'm hitting unmute on those persons as well on my end, just to ensure that they're 100% able to unmute themselves should they want.
Great. So if you're on a tablet or on a computer, if you hit the mute unmute button, which should be located in the bottom portion of your screen, depending on the app that you're using. Otherwise, hit *6 if you're on the telephone. Anyone who would like to comment on this proposed redevelopment plan, please state your name. We'll put you in queue, provide comments. Is there anyone from the public?
Danielle Moore.
Charlie Cradaville as well.
Okay, we have two individuals, Ms. Moore and Ms. Cradaville. I think Ms. Moore, you jumped in first. Is there anyone else besides Ms. Moore and Ms. Cradaville?
I go by Mr. Cradaville.
I'm sorry, my apologies.
Okay.
Mr. Cradaville, my apologies. That was not intentional. I apologize. Mr. Chairman, there are two individuals. There is Ms. Moore and Mr. Cradaville. With your permission, if I may ask the first individual, Ms. Moore, if she'd like, she has 5 minutes to comment, and obviously this is comment. There's no testimony that's being provided. She will not need to be sworn in. So if she could just provide her name for the record. And if she has 5 minutes beginning now.
Go ahead, Ms. Moore.
Hi, yes. Happy New Year's to everyone. Welcome back. My name is Danielle Moore. I have to say I'm very disappointed in what I'm hearing for the mayor to even think about building more townhouses due to where New Brunswick is already overpopulated already. And wow, our schools are so overpopulated due to where we do not need any more buildings due to where I say this, the city inspection is doing a horrible job and making sure that the number of tenants are staying in apartments throughout New Brunswick. How sure, claiming only 50,000 people in New Brunswick, that's crap. That's a lie. And please, for you to even think about building more housing in New Brunswick due to where it's just extremely overpopulated, where you can't even, the police department can't keep up with the crime, the garbage, you can't keep up with all the garbage due to where you have to pick up garbage 7 days a week. Think about that as well, due to where, come on, my whole point. We do not need any more apartments to go up. New Brunswick is overpopulated already. And like I said, due to where inspections, they do not make sure a certain amount of people, whether it's rental or buying or owning, that really make sure that a certain amount of people stay in there. Then it'll be an issue with how many vehicles you have for parking. Where normally maybe 2 or 3 per household, and then that'll be a situation due to where with parking. But I just hope that you would really just try to keep it as maybe make it a big grocery store, ShopRite, a big huge ShopRite. That's a very good business. Some type of mall, or even some type of recreational for New Brunswick, to try to have the kids to do the people do something to try to keep this crime rate down in New Brunswick. But come on, we surely do not need any more apartments to go up. And like I said, sad to hear that even though everyone knows what our mayor is basically all about, real estate. But come on. Our kids, we're already having a situation due to where New Brunswick schools being overpopulated. Come on, we know that COVID-19 isn't going anywhere. Even with the vaccines, even with the next 4 years, we're going to be dealing with this. The kids can't even stay 6 feet apart in school. Come on, please think about what you're doing. Stop thinking about real estate, and due to where, even though, like I said, you have too many construction sites going on already in New Brunswick, at least 6 sites. Too much digging. Think about the rodents. I know majority, like I said, I would love to shove all these rats running up in broad daylight from all this digging going along here. Send them out to Rutgers Village. Let you deal with how with all this construction work is going on. Plum Street and Somerset Street, the Cancer Center on Somerset Street, Jersey Avenue and Van Dyke. Then starting off over by Delafield, another construction site. I can't even keep up with all of them, but you have at least 6 projects going on. Come on. Then, like I said, then with Jersey Avenue you're digging, then the Fern Mall? Come on, you can't even really keep up with them. But please, we don't need any more apartment buildings. Just think about a nice big grocery store. I think due to where Toll Manor and the other places out there as well, that would make a good profit with stores. But like I said, we don't need any more apartment buildings. We're already being lied to, saying that, it's only 50,000 people living in New Brunswick. But like I said, New Brunswick really did inspections like they did when New Brunswick was... Is my time up?
Yes.
Your time's up, Ms. Moore.
Like I said, please think about it. Overpopulated already.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ithel, if you can call Mr. Cradiville, I believe he's next.
That's correct. Mr. Cradiville, again, my apologies. That was unintentional. Mr. Cradiville, you have
Not
5.
a problem.
And it begins now.
Okay, apology accepted. Congratulations to the new board chair, the new vice chair, and to the 2 new members. First point I want to raise is I believe one of the new members, Mr. Wright, is on the board of the New Brunswick Housing and Redevelopment Agency. I see they're referenced in the redevelopment plan. Is it appropriate for him to participate in this upcoming vote?
It is appropriate for him to participate. That's correct.
Okay, I've just never heard of a planning board member also serving on the redevelopment agency. I think that home ownership should be a priority for New Brunswick. I think most of the redevelopment projects over the past decade, if not all of the major ones, have all been 100% rental apartments, which continues to build up the inequality in the city and ultimately leads to so many of the problems we have here, where there's so much turnover in the housing and the housing costs so much, and these really wealthy companies and real estate moguls are just having their way with the city, and the poor and middle class folks are not able to get by here, and so they end up inevitably leaving if they can. Now, I am pleased to see that this plan includes some component of for sale townhomes, but I don't believe that it will happen. And what I believe will happen is that the apartments will be prioritized, more apartments will be built, and if they ever get around to building the townhomes, they will be done in such a way, and this is not to pass judgment on Russo, but this is to say that, if this is not done deliberately and there's not mandates put in this plan, that these townhomes will end up like Fulton Square, which was supposed to be, for sale housing, but inevitably turned into a neighborhood that's been plagued by crime and violence, and now many of those units are rented out, even though that was not the original intention. So I do believe that if not, I predict that a change will be made, and whether it's Russo or third-party middlemen will get involved and buy the units and start renting them, and that we will continue to move in the wrong direction in terms of home ownership. My understanding is that we are we have the greatest percentage of renters versus homeowners here of any municipality in New Jersey. I think we're up to almost 80% renters, and we need to do something about that and make it easier for folks to own a home and to make homes that folks want to make communities that folks would want to move into and start a family and put down roots and stay here. So I'm skeptical about how this is really going to play out. I also think that this component lacks a meaningful public transportation component. You've got to get better public transit. Otherwise, we're just going to end up with a lot more cars, and Route 1 is going to get even more jammed up. And we heard Mr. Dominguez say, and I have great respect for Mr. Dominguez, but he said he, quote, hopes that the developer will include a shuttle. Well, we can hope all we want, but if we don't put it in the plan and we don't mandate it, or the city doesn't step up, or the county or Rutgers or somebody else doesn't step up to improve our bus system and get more public transportation, we are going to continue down the wrong path in that regard as well. And, I'm sorry?
You have 1 minute, Mr. Carter.
I'm sorry, 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I also, again, great respect for Mr. Dominguez, but I will take issue with his claims about the census being wrong. I think that, he obviously knows a lot about his field, but, I don't think that evidence has been presented to prove that the census is wrong. And I know New Brunswick has historically been undercounted, and I don't think that, it's really, I don't think it really matters one way or the other what the census says. I think that we need to build communities that are going to attract people who want to set down roots here, establish families here, and, create a better, more friendly New Brunswick, and we can do it. But if we just count on developers to do it and leave everything up to them and do what they want, it seems like this plan is more or less a copy-paste of what this developer is doing in other communities. New Brunswick is unique. We need a unique plan for this site, and that's all I have on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Credible. All right, that was everybody for public comment and public questions, correct?
That's correct.
All right, at this point, we'll close that, and I will ask if there is a motion from the board regarding this redevelopment plan.
Now, just jumping in, because I don't think I could take the role, right, Arvin? Last time I think you took the role for this. Do you have a copy of the list?
I do.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, so just so the board members are aware, what we're doing is we are considering the redevelopment plan. Again, this board does not have the authority or discretion to actually enact an ordinance. It is as the planning board, it has a unique position and expertise in determining whether this would be an ideal plan, and this is an overlay zone, so the underlying zones would still remain as they are. And the plan itself would be an overlay, meaning that if a developer came in, and again, we do not designate a redeveloper either, but the plan that's been presented to the board by Mr. Dominguez will go back to the governing body. The governing body is the only body that's authorized to enact an ordinance. If the board has, or members have any suggestions that they want to add, now would be the appropriate time and to make a motion based on anything that's been added. Otherwise, a motion to approve or disapprove the redevelopment plan would be appropriate, and that recommendation would be sent back to the governing body for action.
Great, thank you, Mr. Ithal. Based on Mr. Ithal's summary, can I get a motion on this, on the Sears redevelopment plan?
This is Bob Cardick. I'd like to make a motion for approval with that consideration be given to adding additional, addressing additional open space needs as part of the proposal, and also incorporation of public transportation into the plan.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
This is Ivan, I'll second.
Mr. Ithal, if you can make roll call.
Thank you. Board members, I'm sorry, Ms. Checo,
Yes.
Ms. Ludwig,
Yes.
Mr. Stellatella,
Yes.
Mr. Dorno,
Yes.
Ms. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Wright, I think I saw your lips say yes. If you could just shake your head. I couldn't hear you. Thank you. Mr. Castaneda,
Yes.
and I was dreading this because I'm going to mispronounce it. Is it Mr. Camioni?
Correct. Yes.
Arvin, you didn't. I don't think you asked Bob.
I'm
I
sorry.
think you skipped.
Did I skip Mr. Cardica?
I
Yes.
think you did.
The answer, my vote is yes.
Okay, so apology number 2 for the evening. My apologies.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all.
So moving to section 7, other matters of interest to the public. Mr. Dominguez, I think you could take over at this point to call on any members that wish to speak to the board.
Sure. So we are now in general public comment. If there are any members of the public who wish to speak, general public comment for up to 5 minutes per person, announce yourselves and we'll put you on a list of speakers and you'll get your 5 minutes.
Hello, Charlie Cradaville again.
All right, Mr. Cradaville. Is there anyone else?
Danielle Moore?
Danielle Moore. All right. Anyone else? Last call. Seeing none, Chairman Castaneda. We have Mr. Charlie Cradaville, Ms. Moore.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
As this is the first meeting, this is a portion, the public portion for public comment. This is not a question and answer period. and the comments should be restricted to the planning board business. If there are any other comments that the members of the public would like to ask that may be more appropriate before another board, that would be appropriate for that other board or that other government entity. If the members of the public have questions, and again, I would remind them that this is a public comment period, not a question and answer period.
Great, thank you for that explanation. And with that, I think we can call Mr. Cradiville. I believe you're up first.
Yes, yes.
Yes, good evening. Charles Cradiville. I live on Saddam Street in the 2nd Ward. I'm also the editor of New Brunswick Today, a community newspaper here. I am very glad that Ms. Sikora Ludwig is no longer this board's chair. On October 4th, she ignored the wishes of one of the board members, and that board member wanted to hear from an objector who Ms. Sikora Ludwig had bamboozled into preventing him from exercising his rights to object. Basically, this board member asked if it was okay to reopen the public comment portion. She ignored his request, made a motion to approve, and the board violated the rights of this objector. And well, guess what? That board member, John Petrolino, one of the best, hardest working, best listeners on this board, resigned from the board because of this malfeasance. And you can see that in his resignation letter, where he enumerated his reasons for leaving. So through the chair, does Ms. Sikora Ludwig have any comment on Mr. Petrolino's resignation?
I will not, unless she wants to speak freely, we can move on.
I have no comment, but just to be clear, I only chair the board. I was not the chair of this board. I only chair when the chair and the vice chair cannot do it because of whatever reasons. And I think Mr. Cradiville knows that. So to say that I'm no longer the chair doesn't make any sense. That's my only comment.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and I guess she's chosen not to comment, but I'd encourage her to read that letter if she hasn't read the letter. You can find it on oprahmachine.com, Mr. John Petrolino's resignation letter. It is a shame that a good board member, one of the board members who actually listened and was willing to hear us out, left because he wasn't listened to by a chair, temporary as she might have been, who did a very poor job. She let the applicant go on and on for hours, and then this objector just tried to make his objections, and she silenced him, took Kelso's side, County Counsel Thomas Kelso, who shouldn't even be representing private clients at this level. She took his side, ignored her own board member, John Petrolino. Now he's quit because of it. So shame on you for that. I do need to follow up on another matter. The board members who were here in October, I'd like to know if you have since received my letter of October 4th, or do I have to send it to your homes? This was, of course, the letter about the man who pretended to be an architect, Todd Helmer, and was not actually a licensed architect. Devco, the notorious developer, misrepresented his credentials. This came before you in an executive session. I did send a letter to your board secretary. He confirmed he received it before, but because your attorney says he didn't check his email before the meeting, you didn't get to see it in time, and you made your decision based on only hearing one side of the case. Can you tell me, did you, for instance, Mr. Chairman, did you get my letter yet, or do I have to send it to your home?
Your letter was received and provided to the board, Mr. Cradiville. And
okay, and I
spoke about the investigation as he looked into the situation at the last board meeting.
Okay, so you're telling me you addressed this during the December meeting?
Correct.
Okay, the minutes are not available yet. I'll have to review my recording, but I'll check up on that. And you know, seriously, I think there are lessons that can be learned from last year. Ms. Sikora Ludwig was also running other meetings, including the infamous ones where you know, Todd Helmer was pretending to be an architect and got away with it. And I think that those hearings were not a good example of how to include the public in your decision making. It became very combative, and it was a us versus them situation where it was very clear that Ms. Sikora Ludwig had her mind made up long before any of these plans even got submitted. She wants to do what DevCo wants, and she ultimately took their side on every single matter, every single objection, every single component of that. And it was a long, drawn-out hearing, and you know, I'll admit that I certainly lost my cool at times and did things that I regret. But I can admit that, and I hope that one day Ms. Sikora Ludwig can admit the mistakes she has made here, and I hope that we can all learn from the mistakes that we made last year. And I do wish you all a happy and healthy 2022, and thank you for hearing me out tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Credible.
Next up
Mr.
is,
Chair, Mr. Chair, are you going to continue to allow personal attacks during public comment?
I will not. I will work with the board to exact the rules, and I will make sure that decorum is met.
Thank you.
all right, next up is Ms. Danielle Moore. Ms. Moore, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
You have the floor.
Hi, I would just say hi once again, New Brunswick. Please, I will stay on the same track as Mr. Cradaville did. Please don't ever make Ms. Ludwig president in charge again, due to where I have to say she does not respect people. Wow, if you provide the evidence of what's going wrong, what's not being done, how she'll just talk right over you, disrespect you, due to where she's
Ms.
definitely
Moore,
not a person to be.
Ms. Moore, I will just, out of respect for Ms. Sikora Ludwig, I will ask that, you know, you keep your comments away from her personally.
I think and that's the only reason why she just stated that, due to where she knew I was speaking, due to where how she always does to me every time, with disrespecting me. Come on, if someone else can they can say what they want about Miss Ludwig, I can say it too, due to where what I have to say. She causes a lot of problems with someone being disrespected, where she does not respect people in a certain good way. And like I said, she does not need to be president of council or planning board anymore. New Brunswick, please don't let the quietness fool you. And like I said, that's why she did it, due to where she knew it was my turn to speak. But like I said, I don't get my heart rate up again with you anymore, because like I said, you will have your day. But like I said, come on, too many construction sites going on. And I meant, come on, for you to be seeing rats running up and down these streets, Somerset Street, everywhere else during broad daylight. Come on, New Brunswick was never like this before. Or wow, I can't even sit on my porch without seeing rats running up and down the street. Where what? That was within a year's time. It's not the landlord either. We're catching over 30 mice in what? A month or so, due to where with these construction sites, the landlord pays for exterminator fee, everything is clean, due to where, come on, enough with these construction sites. 40 Jersey, over to 50 Jersey Avenue and Van Dyke, another building coming up with Robert Wood Johnson on Plum and Somerset Street. Come on, the Cancer Center on Somerset Street, Farron Mall. Then you have another project going by over by Delafield Street. Come on, like I said, too much. Get this mayor out of here, because we do not need, all he keeps thinking about is real estate. Come on, you're taking the history away from New Brunswick, due to where, like I said, more and more, this is no longer the city of New Brunswick, due to where everything is going to Ruckert and Robert Wood Johnson. But wow, like I said, no matter what, New Brunswick is overpopulated already. How many homeless people you have living up and down these streets? Due to where how you say the rent can be $3,500. You can even afford to pay a rent on somewhere. For example, due to where Birchwood Terrace, I paid $1,645 for a 2-bedroom. Oh, I can afford it. But wow, just to get in a place, due to where it makes it so hard, you have to make $72,000 of income to get a place. So that's the situation where, whether it's townhousing or with the townhouses or with rent, people do not make enough money to buy these affordable, or not even affordable or luxury, whether luxury apartments or what. And it's very sad. All you ever do is just say yes, yes, yes. And believe me, with these people in New Brunswick, It'll never be right until, like I said, Mayor Cahill gets out of here, due
Right,
to
Ms.
where I am very disappointed.
Ms. Moore, are you done?
Due to where you kept interacting with me every time, due to where you do it every time, due to where you never, none of you ever like to hear the truth. So yes, that's all you ever do is interrupt me.
1 minute left.
Well, thank you for telling me, due to where, like I said, if it was that much time, what were you still interacting? Because you don't like to hear the truth? Come on, like I said, New Brunswick is overpopulated, whether it's ownership or renter, due to where they do not do inspections. Where say you only have 5 to 6 living in a place, and you got over 30 living in one place, due to where it's situation with parking already throughout New Brunswick. 5 cars per household? Come on, New Brunswick never was like this before. And the more you keep doing construction, overpopulated. Like I said, our school systems are overpopulated already. Come on. You can't even stay 6 feet apart. How is this really going to keep going on? The more you keep adding on, whether it's luxury,
That's
rent,
time.
ownership, or not.
Ms. Moore. Thank you for your comments. All right, we are now at the final. So at this point, can I get a motion to adjourn?
It's Chris Stilts. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
This is Ivan, I'll second.
All right. Thank you and have a
All
good
in
night.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Have a good night, everybody.